All right, hello everyone. This is a road journey adventure, bizarre adventure to National Master. This is round two of the Benjamin Franklin Open here on December 21st, 2024. And I have another opponent. He's actually right there. That guy. That guy was my opponent. Plot twist. I'm playing my room buddy, my hotel room buddy, Austin, and this is our fourth time playing. And this is probably one of the most exciting games. And I went through a lot of emotions in this one. So yeah, one of the most exciting games I played this year, this calendar year. So with that being said, let's hop into it. Hop right to it, I guess. So I've never played Nf3 before in my life. But I played Austin lots of times, and we've played a lot of E4, E5, like Petrov, and I was like, you know what? I played Nf3 randomly against him too, and I didn't hate those positions, so let's play it again this time. And we go for a Piakeno setup, and he likes to do this like London, like Slav-ish setup against it. I don't know. It's like something that exists. And yes, typical maneuver here to attack the B pawn. I'm sure most people are familiar with the fact that like you usually like to leave the tension there, unless you want to break it for whatever reason. But it's usually good to leave the tension. And I decided to take in the center, and like if he took back with the e pawn, for example, I was actually planning to slide back with the queen and actually play for e4. And this e4 pawn break that I was thinking about for a long time, it was a really big part of the game. So I wonder if instead of c takes d5, I wonder if I could have just taken, I would have gone queen c2 immediately. It's kind of interesting. I kind of move the queen a lot if c takes. But I'm actually kind of happy with how the game turned out. So I'm happy with this move. But he does trade now, because now he's on Austin thinks, okay, double isolated pawns. This is a big structural weakness. At least that's what I think he thought. Is that what you thought? Roughly. Roughly. Okay. So we just finished the game like 5 minutes ago. So anyways, so I have these doubled pawns, but I do have a nice open rook, and I am ahead in development. I'm already castled, so this isn't too bad. And trying to remember, I'm already thinking about knight hops like knight h4 or knight d4. I didn't think any of them were good yet. Bishop development. Anywhere the bishop goes, it feels like it's being more of a target rather than being useful. I think it's actually useful enough on c1. So I just developed the knight, and now I play knight d4. Oh yeah, at this point, after knight d4, move 11, I have 67 minutes, so we spent probably about 20 minutes in, because it's plus 30-second increment per move. And he had after he played bishop e7, he has 75 minutes left on the clock. So he's definitely playing faster, and time became a huge issue later on in the game. But I was very happy at this point. I remember I was thinking a long time on knight h4 or knight d4, and actually I think knight h4 helps him a little bit, because now like I really want to play e4 or f4. But I think knight h4 is a step in the wrong direction, because, well, if this knight moves, this knight is under attack, and I would have to double pawns if they takes. Also, the bishop on e6, actually, like, d4 is kind of a threat, because now the b pawn is hanging in some cases. Like, right now, if black had another move, maybe d5 is... Honestly, yeah, let's play d5, perhaps, restricting white's position and also attacking the b pawn, and it's actually, like, impossible to defend. So I didn't want to go knight h4. I did think about it for a while. I would end up going with knight d4, because after bishop g6, I can do either one. And I was calculating for a really long time here, and I'm actually very happy. This is probably one of the moves I'm most proud of, because I think I spent at least 15 minutes here, and I played h3. with the idea, like, firstly, this bishop is a target. At least I felt it was. And I was thinking about ways that, like, I really want to get my kingside majority to rolling down the board and open the position up. I do have this, like, static weaknesses on the queen side, these double isolated pawns. So if I can, I need to make the game, I'm obligated to make the game a bit more dynamic, or else I'm just going to be nestled with bad pawns in the end game. So I felt the need to expand in the center, push my kingside majority. Well, I guess it's not a majority yet, but I don't know. It could be soon. And this bishop, it can be tucked away, stuck in the corner with an f5, f4, or f4, f5 pushes, possibly. But I play h3 first because I was imagining, I was calculating something like e4, and if something like, yeah, let's say takes and takes, then I even forget. I forget what I was calculating here. Something like this. And bishop c5 is actually really annoying. And I can't meet it with bishop e3 because of knight g4. And actually, I believe this is straight up losing. Yeah, because the bishop's hanging, and the bishop is the only thing going to the knight. So it is straight up losing. So I was calculating things like that. So that's why I was patient and played h3 after a lot of thought. And after he castles, now I play f4. I don't start with e4. I start with f4 because there is that direct trap. And after bishop at c5 and bishop e3, I was actually thinking here for a long time. Actually, before playing f4, I was thinking here a long time about the resulting position, because and which this is what I was really proud of in my calculation, because I was calculating things like rook e8, bishop f2. I think it's on the next move actually, but yeah, actually I think he played. No, this is the move. Yeah, h6. Yeah, but I was also calculating rook f8, and at the bishop moves, something like taking like this. And I was calculating really far down this line. In this case, the bishop is trapped, so you don't have enough time to take. But this idea of like waiting for my bishop to move back and then taking on d4 and then opening the center, I was trying to evaluate that, and I was like, okay, this is good. This is good for me. I don't think this is that bad at all. So after h6, I was kind of happy to see that. And this is where I played my next best, another move that I'm very happy about. I think this is the best move. I could be totally wrong. But I thought for another 15, 17, 18 minutes, something like that, on king h1, which I was very proud of this move. Because f5, Austin actually has a bishop h5, and I can't trap it because he sacrifices the bishop. And after pawn takes and knight takes, suddenly, SpaghettiOs. The bishop's losing, knight's losing the defense, and the bishop's hanging, and this is bad news bears. So I realized that the bishop is awkwardly placed, and also, like, if the bishop goes back to f2, it's blocking the f pawn. And I actually want my rook on the f file to help keep the f5 pawn intact. So that's why I played king h1, keeping another square open for my bishop on g1. I did not play king g2 because I thought there were some cases where after I push f5 and g4, or maybe before I push g4, there's something like bishop d6 stuff. It's just another check. So I thought the king on h1 was better placed than on h2. Another move I really considered and thought about a long time, I was calculating for a long time about, is a knight on a4. Knight a4 attacking the bishop. The bishop isn't hanging though because of the knight. I didn't think this was that bad, but I also thought this was a step in the wrong direction. I think the knight is actually pretty well placed, towards the center, but here it's on the edge. So that's kind of like, and after like rook f8 still, and bishop back, I thought I think it was mainly this. Yeah, I think it was something like this I didn't like, and but maybe it's still fine. But I don't think I want this. This is not what I want. So I thought about those were two candidate moves that I really thought about. Before playing Bishop E3, after H6, those were my two candidate moves: Knight A4 and King H1. I think King H1 is much better because of this knight is very well placed in the center of the board. He plays A6 and offers a draw. So this is where this is where, like, if you don't know, I know Austin well, and the amount of times I've seen people decline draw offers and proceed to lose is immense. Like, so immense. I've seen it happen a gazillion times. And when I declined this draw offer, that's when I knew the writing was on the wall. There's a good chance I'm going to lose this game. But what am I going to do? Accept the draw offer? Look how good this position is. I think this position is really good because I'm going to trap the bishop in the corner. And I'm going to slowly progress. I'm going to move my bishop back. I'm going to move my rook towards the center. I'm going to move my knights around to better squares. Maybe control the dark squares a bit more. I'm not sure yet. But I thought I was the one dictating play. And I thought actually I had a better position, especially with the bishop being trapped. Because, of course, next move is F5. And, of course, like my calculation, or like I explained with King H1, G4 now works because he cannot sacrifice the bishop. Because of this awesome bishop G1 square protecting the knight still. Okay. So A6, F5, and I play G4. I don't necessarily need to play G4 immediately. I like the idea of overprotecting this pawn. It feels a bit loose with only this knight. Like, for example, if I move my knight backwards, well, the pawn's hanging. Also the bishop's hanging too. But I don't plan to move my knight backwards. But it feels this feels very solid. Just play G4 and slowly build, because he's not doing anything. And if he ever does start getting his own pawns rolling, well, suddenly the D5 square, the D5 pawn is weak, and I'll probably win that. So it felt very good. I felt very, very good in this position. And yep, rook E8 and bishop back. His bishop back. I was still calculating for a long time, evaluating this endgame, and I thought I still was doing pretty good, especially if something like this. And I determined, okay, well, hey, his bishop's still in the corner, and my bishop's still really awesome. I might take this pawn. I'm not sure yet. We haven't reached this position yet. So I was very happy if we reached an endgame like this. And but of course, he did not go for this because I assume he saw that, man, this position is kind of sketchy in not a good way. So, okay. So instead he goes bishop back, keeping pieces on the board. A6 also, it's just probably a useful move. And I guess it made square for the bishop. I guess that's why he played A6 in the first place, huh? There are some ideas like if I can take his bishop on A7 and get his rook misplaced, that's like, I gotta think about any weird discoveries, but there's no weird discoveries as far as I can tell. But that's something I thought about, at least. And B4, so for a long time, the bishop on this diagonal was controlling my B4 advance, but now I can play B4, and I'm actually feeling really great. My pawns are really restricting his own pawn structure, and I mean, what does he have? He does not have pawn play. He has no pawn breaks. He does not have piece play, because I mean, look how beautifully his bishops are in the corner like that. Like it feels nice for me. So still on the theme of like I have the advantage. Knight E5. No threats on the position yet. So I just slowly improve. Knight A4. I actually don't think it's interesting. I said, oh, the knight is on the edge of the board and not doing much compared to now. I feel like it's doing better, as opposed to oh my gosh, how am I saying this? early in the position, before I played king h1, I considered knight a4 as one of my candidate moves, but I determined the knight was better placed on c3. But now I play knight a4 because, well, my position is more safeguarded. It's actually really, really cool because my knight is well guarded. Nothing is hanging as of yet, and I have time to just improve my position slowly. And plus, I have this after a6, I have this juicy c5 square potentially, because this c6 pawn. Well, because you can't really play b6 as well. Anyways, knight a4, I felt like it was a good move. So after knight back, I centralized. So the pawn was sort of hanging because, well, he was studying the pawn because of the bishop takes, and rook e2. And this, actually, I thought for a long time here. I thought for like another 15 minutes. Probably after this move, after rook a e1, I had 19 minutes. I had 19 minutes on move 20. Move 21, I mean. So I have 19 more moves and 20 minutes left. 19 minutes left. Still 30-second bonus per move, but I am getting on time trouble. Well, Austin, after move 21, he has 34 minutes. So I actually thought for a long time because I honestly, it's kind of tough. So after I was thinking about rook f-e1. So it's the biggest dilemma of all time. The which rook dilemma. Do I use that rook or this rook or this rook or that rook? I had a really hard time evaluating the difference because on one hand, if I go rook f-e1, g6 looks a little bit more appetizing. Like it looks like it's a possible move. But then I was like, actually e4, and if something like takes and takes, his bishop's still stuck in the corner. Although this is a weak pawn, I don't control the square in front of it that well, and it feels like black can just play a knight there forever, and there's nothing I can do about it. So that is the case. But I actually thought the more trying attempt, like if he does play g6 and I play e4, is actually knight e5, not taking. Although maybe you do have to take. But this actually does ask a question: how am I defending this pawn, and how am I going to continue? So I actually don't remember what my conclusion was about this position. I think my conclusion was it was okay. No, it's not okay. I think my conclusion was I don't like this. I think I had a better alternative. I think it's still fine because rook a d1. It's probably still fine, but I actually liked the other alternative better, because now g6. Well, I can still play e4, but I have my 2 rooks on this file. I thought it was good, but I wasn't sure if I should keep this rook open on the c file or d file potentially. I'm kind of happy with my choice. I think the rooks are okay on this file, and I still think my position is great. I believe after knight e5, on move 21, Austin offered another draw, and once again, writing is on the wall. I declined, which means I'm likely going to lose this game. When you decline 1, like, you know it's bad against Austin, but when you decline 2, then you know, oh man, that's bad. That's bad news bears. So I do decline because I think my position is still awesome. His bishop's still in the corner, and I'm still going to hop my pieces in, and I think everything's looking pretty good. And honestly, this is going to be an interesting one to look through, to review, and analyze with an engine. I'm very anti-engine when talking about my thoughts and stuff like that, because you need to get your analysis and evaluation out before you look at the engine, because it's going to cloud your memory of your analysis. It's going to cloud how you think about it. If you don't analyze it first with an engine, if you don't get it out of your system before you analyze with an engine, it clouds your thoughts beforehand, or afterwards, I mean. Anyways, that's just my philosophy. So here, I hop my knight in, centralizing it, attacking the pawn. And I still think I'm doing really well here. I considered other moves like knight f3, or knight b3. I ended up going with knight c4 still. I still thought it was the best, but I wasn't really sure. It was really, really hard to evaluate this, especially because I think the knight on e5 is kind of good. I actually want to trade it off. And I feel like the more pieces I trade off, well, if Heatley is left with a bad bishop and I'm left with not as bad bishop, then that's probably an okay thing. So, but I think probably knight b3 and is probably okay too. Or knight f3. I forgot why. I thought a long time, and I forgot why I decided to go knight c4 first. Yeah, I think I didn't mind the take on c5. I think the reason why I wanted to give him the opportunity to take on c5, because if he does take on c5, I have more space on this side of the board, and I actually don't mind it because my bishop will protect the pawn on c5 if he does take, and I think that my position is still very, very pleasant. So I think that's why I played knight c5, because I still like my position a lot. After rook up, I finally move my knight back, and so to me, I'm like, okay, I'm unwinding finally. Not unwinding, but I'm trading off pieces, and I'm still preparing e4 at some point, trying to ask questions about the pawn structure. And he doubles, and I take, and he takes on c5. I actually wasn't expecting that. I mean, it's not like it's super critical, but I actually wasn't expecting him to not take on c5 immediately and then wait to take on c5. And here I sort of miss a move because I actually thought I actually thought for a while here. I thought that after knight takes and rook takes and bishop here, that I was gonna be able to take on f6 and double his f and make him have doubled f pawns, and his bishop is literally in jail for the rest of his life because he has committed heinous crimes against humanity. So, but then I completely forgot that actually my e2 pawn is hanging, and that this actually changes things a decent bit. That the fact that the e2 pawn is hanging and I have to spend a tempo playing bishop f3 or rook c2, but probably not rook c2. But yeah, bishop f3, I have to spend a tempo doing that. So what happens in the game is this. When I saw the position from afar, I thought this is a move that I could play, but rook e2, and my life is sad, and I'm sad. But for example, if he didn't have that move, and a position like this occurs, oh man, like I'm just a happy guy. this is good. This is very, very, very good. I'm winning this game, I feel like. But of course, I have to spend this tempo, and he moves his rook back voluntarily. Whatchamacallit? A prophylactic move. It's my impression of that move. There are some cases where maybe I can get the bishop to d6. Ideally, I would want my bishop on d6 faster rather than later. So he does this move. And I was considering bishop h2 to go on d6, but I decided against it. But it actually looks totally fine the more I look at it. Actually, no. I think it was something like this. Yeah, maybe this is why I didn't like it. Although I can still take on e5, and this position is still probably fine. Although it's very close to what happens in the game. So what happens in the game is I do go bishop d4, and he does move his knight back, and I cannot go b4 because, or I felt like I could go b4 because after knight e5, he's threatening to take this pawn, not this knight, not this bishop, I guess. Yeah, not the bishop, I guess. But he's taking the he's threatening to take this pawn, and I forgot what I was looking at. Something about this position I didn't like. But this actually looks fine. I do need to bring my king over, or else the e4 pawn will be pinned because of the double rooks looking at my rooks. So I do need to bring my king over. My king is too far on the edge of the board. But I decided against b4. Maybe it's actually fine, but I don't know. It looks very weird. I ended up bringing my king over like this. And so in this case, I still keep my bishop for now, but g6 happens. And this is where I noticeably notice a position going wrong. Noticeably notice. No, I realize a position's going wrong. If he can successfully get in G6 in a good way, like he's just, I feel like he's solved a lot of his problems and his position isn't so bad. Was kind of my thought process. Probably after in the last, let's see, it's move 29. At this point, I have 5 minutes. So I am getting down to the wire, and I have to make decisions, like deciding to play bishop d4 and deciding to move my king over. That was kind of tough decisions for me to make, and yeah. So he plays g6. I'm trying to think here. If I did play king g2 and knight d7, I don't know if there's any way to prevent g6, honestly. Like, if I were to play this differently, looking back at it now, I still think, like, it's either this position is already no longer better for me, or there's something I could have done differently here to prevent him from getting back into the game so well. Or maybe I'm just overly optimistic. Like, here, of course, he cannot play g6 because I would take and the knight's hanging. And so, but at the same time, this pawn is hanging, but maybe this looks horrible. Rook c2, rook f2, though, is maybe the way I need it to go. And if something like knight d7 now, well, now bishop h2 and bishop d6, and I can bring my king to f1. Maybe this was a different way of playing. Like, I'm trying to think of maybe rook, I don't know. Let's say rook here. I would probably kick the rook out first. Although, no, the pawn's hanging. The d3 pawn is hanging. So this has its own issues, which is pretty annoying. So I'm not sure if this is really better. Looking at the position now, it doesn't look that much better. So maybe already, somehow I lost the advantage, or my presumed advantage. I presume I had an advantage. Maybe it was knight c5. Maybe I needed to maneuver my knight in different ways. I assume I needed to maneuver my knights in different ways before trading them, but whatever the case is, he gets g6 in. And I think I make f6 with under a minute on the clock. No, f6 I have 5 minutes. But after... Well, actually, after this whole thing, after playing e4, I have 0 minutes. So I have under a minute. After e4. And I do miss a really nice resource in this position, because he takes... So one of the issues in this position is that both of my dark squared pawns are super, super weak after I take the knight. If I don't take the knight, I'm going to lose this f6 pawn, because the rook is attacking it. So, and I did not want to take. Maybe this is where I could have changed something. If I had just taken on g6, maybe actually this position isn't so bad. Oh yeah, I just realized that maybe this is where the blunder was. Actually, I had no idea where I really screwed up in this position, but maybe I just have to bite the bullet and take on g6. And if he takes with the bishop, then he has split pawns. I mean, it's still probably not that much worse for him, but hey, he has split pawns, and he takes with the g pawn. Well, his bishop is blocked temporarily, at least, and it's symmetrical pawns, and I might not. Well, actually, not symmetrical. He has an A and I have an E pawn, but still, it's probably better than what happened in the game. In the game, though, I didn't really. I considered taking on g6, but I thought if I played f6, his bishop would be stuck behind the pawn for a bit longer, but I completely messed it up. I think after rook e6, maybe I had this really, really interesting move, g5, sacrificing a pawn and stopping him from getting out of the corner for a little bit longer. It probably doesn't work because, well, the pawn is hanging, and if I take, and go e4, and what happened in the game is he played g5, but he can't play g5 here. But if he does play g5, maybe this is slightly better. This trade is slightly better now. I'm not sure how to evaluate this. to be honest. I'm not sure how to evaluate this difference, but it is an interesting move that maybe I could have played. Um, maybe I could have played. Anyways, so I'm in time trouble. I play e4, and after I miss this move g5, opening up the bishop, and suddenly I have to. I'm in big trouble, I think. So there's two things I was mainly considering. It was well, I have to. But firstly, I really wanted to play rook b4, but after bishop takes d3, attacking the rook, the bishop slides back to b5, guarding the pawn, and I was like, this is miserable. I hate my life. Although maybe here it actually wasn't so bad. I just now realized this. Maybe it's actually not so bad. Because he has to defend the b pawn like this if he wants to defend it. And my bishop on f3 is really good at guarding the rook checks. Although I don't know, this is kind of sketch, but maybe this position isn't so bad. But I saw maybe there was another room for improvement for this game. But instead, I take on e5, and I with literally 2 seconds on the clock, I make this move. And we still haven't reached the 40th move, and we still haven't reached the second time control. Man, this is tough. So I make this move. The issue is all my pawns are hanging. That's really a big issue. I consider d4 here, but after rook e6 and rook e1, he can take the pawn. And I really wanted to make this work. Like, oh, look at how much counterplay I have. But, oh my gosh, wait, he can't play that move. I thought he could play bishop e4 immediately, but that does lose the bishop. So, he would probably have to play a move like king here, and then bishop e4 works, but wait, I have rook b3! I did not calculate that far. After I saw that he had bishop e4, I stopped calculating. I also didn't have the time to calculate, but I stopped calculating nonetheless. Apparently, I just need to get good. Well, that's actually crazy. That's honestly crazy. I can't believe that actually. That's nuts. Okay, so I don't do that. Although it looks like I should have played d4. And instead, I play rook e1 because I thought I was gonna lose a pawn no matter what I do. So I traded rooks. Of course, if he just takes this pawn, it's checkmate in one. So he's better than that. He did not fall for that. I play a bishop, same color bishop, ending down a pawn. So honestly, if I knew, Mike, I probably would have had better drawing chances if I did keep the rooks on. But I thought this position was much. This position here. Like, I just misevaluated this position, and I just thought I was losing, but maybe this is actually holdable. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's actually really hard. I guess he could go here and attack this pawn, but no, actually, no, he can't. So, yeah, this is probably my last big opportunity to stay in the game. Well, stay in the game, but, well, to stay maybe equal pawns, maybe as equality. But here, I'm definitely worse because I'm just down a pawn and same color bishop ending. And these are not known to be as drawish as rook endings. I made this move with literally 1 second. And yeah, he could have taken on h3. I actually think this would have been good for him because after bishop f5, he actually has h5. He has h5 and the pawn is pinned, so I can't take it because he would take my bishop. And I actually was calculating this for a bit, and after bishop c8 and bishop takes g5 and bishop takes b7, he has maybe probably bishop f3. And after this pawn, so he's still up a pawn, but he has two outside passers, two connected pass pawns on the edge of the board. And maybe if I played this, no, it's his move actually. Like, I didn't think I was gonna be able to hold this. Like, look at these pawns, man. The king's gonna walk over like this. Maybe I can stop it. Yeah, maybe I can stop it and blockade. But I don't know. It's still. Actually, is this losing? Oh, yes, it's very much losing. Never mind. So, I actually thought this was his chance to win the game much more quickly. But I guess if you don't see the tactical idea behind h5, then of the bishop hand with h5, I guess it makes sense that you don't see it. Okay, anyways. So we go to this endgame, and he starts moving his king over, which is very practical and requires less calculation. He wants to bring his king over and start pushing his pawn majority and get his pawns rolling, create counterplay, maybe make my king and bishop get tied down to this side of the board so he can walk over to this side of the board. So moving his king over is pretty logical, especially when the fact is, like, I thought, like, it's very, very cool. I thought, like, oh man, maybe king f8 was a blunder at first, but after bishop f5 and something like this, the bishop is trapped. Like, that's actually, you can't calculate that. Stop calculating that. Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And bishop e5, and I'm gonna lose the bishop. Like, bro doesn't see, bro does not see the fact that, you know, in this position, like, he can take, and if I go in here and he goes h5, he has two passes on the outside of on the two connected passers, but he sees the bishop trap. Like, that's actually crazy. Like, I just gotta put it on the board one more time. Like, it's ridiculous. How that, like, you can't see that stuff. With, like, he moved that, he made it instantly. That's disgusting. Anyways, so I saw that the bishop would get trapped if I win bishop c8, and took the pawns. I mean, if I win bishop c8 and took the pawns. So I, with 1 second on the clock again, I played king e1, and he moved the bishop back. He still could have taken the pawn, but at this point it makes sense to, you don't need to do that. He's still winning otherwise. But and I decided to play this move. I played it. I reached a time control. This was the last move that I made to make the time control. But after, so now I have 30 minutes. So I was living under a minute for the last, like, 10 moves. I have extra time, and so I played king f2, and I spent, like, maybe about 10 minutes, maybe about 7 minutes actually, on h4. Just need to calculate to make sure it's okay, and I think it is okay. If he does take, I think that's pretty bad. He can't stop me from winning this pawn and winning this pawn, and I'm going to try to win this pawn. So, I have a very simple plan. I'm going to take. So he doesn't take, and instead he moves his king again, which is very practical. And if I move away, then taking is more of a threat now. So I just take his pawn, and now I move my king. And so his king moves to the side, my king moves to the side, and he plays bishop b3. I think it's all about the same. I don't think he needed to do that, but it's to prevent me from playing b4. The thing is, though, it doesn't really change anything, because after I move my king and he pushes the pawn, I still attack his bishop, do an in-between move, attack his bishop, forcing it back, and this is where I go back under a minute, because I actually have a lot of choices to make. This is very critical. So do I go b4, like, restricting black's king, or do I take the pawn? Oh, do I take the pawn and then go b4? And now he has no passed pawns. So I was calculating, because I was trying to find the difference. What leads to better drawing chances? I'm just gonna go on a limb and assume that I was wrong. I'm gonna assume that, because I did take, and so, but I was calculating after b4, and takes, and a5. I wasn't sure what my move was. I wasn't sure, like, what, like, do I move my king? Probably, but he's gonna try to get his king over, but maybe my bishop is good enough to stop it. But I couldn't find a move, though, like, which is the issue. Like, for example, if I start moving my king, maybe this was my best chance, because if he starts moving his king, I have a check. You know, I have a check to force him back, and I can go forward, and this is okay. Honestly, probably more simpler is a4. Yeah, I don't know why. And if I blockade, then he can go here, and I can just dance between these two. Although I'm not sure if this is better than what happened in the game, but he can still try to get in. But maybe I can just end like if I ever move my bishop like this, he can do this. And I was calculating things like this, and I was like, this looks more lost than the other position. And so I'm thinking about all these things. Like I'm thinking about, okay, what ways, like which one's better? If I play this and give him an pass a pawn, and he pushes it down the board, I'm going to eventually run out of moves. I actually don't know what to do. I don't know which one has better chances. You know what? I'm going to take... I took here. Took here because, okay, he does not have a pass pawn. And so he's going to have to trade one of them before he gets a pass pawn. And maybe that's good. And if he gets lazy and allows my king to infiltrate over here, then that's good. Then that's good. I think I have sufficient counterplay if that happens. But, for example, what he, of course, never blundered was a move like bishop e6, because I promote. Like, he would never blunder that, but just thought I would mention that little detail there. So I move my king up, he moves his king back, and he's making sure he's trying to limit my counterplay as much as possible, which makes a lot of sense. And I was thinking a long time here, because I was not sure if I wanted to play b4 or not. And at this point, after move 49, move 40, I'm back down to under a minute. I'm back down to under a minute again. And so, I don't know. I thought about b4, and I couldn't, and I didn't like the fact that he had king d6. And once again, I felt like I was running out of moves. Like, if I ever bring my bishop back, he's going to collect this pawn. And is this really... Like, maybe this is just... I have just the same amount of drawing chances as I did before. But, I don't know. Like, I felt like I was running out of moves after b4. And after king d6, I couldn't find a move for myself again. I just couldn't. Like, if I go here... Yeah, I guess he probably goes win these pawns. But I had a very hard time evaluating the difference. And so I just moved my king up. And... after a5, I'm still running out of moves, and I don't want to go back with the king because this happens, and if I move my king back again, this happens. So I really was out of moves here. I was out of ideas, out of moves, out of everything, out of time. And after a5, I was considering a move like bishop h7. And so if something like bishop e6, bishop g8 happens, and if he takes, I take, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm winning this. Or I don't know, I couldn't evaluate if I'm winning or not, but it felt like that was good. But the issue is he doesn't have to take on g4, and so I was like thinking in this position, like, oh man, do I play bishop a7? Because if he doesn't, and if I go there and he goes here, he doesn't have to take here. He can just walk his king over first and then take. And I was like, oh man, this is bad, this is bad. And so I play here. He goes here. I move my bishop back, preventing further advances. And, well, I offer a trade. Still living on increment, still less than 1 minute on the clock. But I actually think he can take. This requires calculation. But I was trying to calculate as quick as possible, and I think he can actually take, but I was losing, so I just didn't know what to do. I'm not going to play. Bishop d1 was a more passive way to play. I'm going to lose eventually. But maybe I'm not. But I felt like I was going to lose. So let's say like king walks, and I go bishop here. I need to defend the pawn. Or maybe, actually, if the king walks away, I can go this way. And if something like this... I'm running out of moves. I'm still running out of moves. I actually have no idea. Like, I still felt like I was going to lose. So I decided to throw a haymaker in here. And if he takes, there's a chance I win. I think this is still losing if he plays c5. And after I take and play c4, if I go back, he plays c3. And after I take, he plays a4. And I'm not in time to reach the promotion square. So I think he could have won like that. And so I thought he was just going to take, and I was like, okay, this game's over. But instead, he keeps the bishops on 1 square longer and does it in a fancy way. Why win simply when you can win more fancy? It's probably the opposite of Austin's approach. But this actually puts me, I have no moves. And this is probably a simpler win, less calculation, which makes sense. But what am I going to do? Am I really going to play this position 2 pawns down if I move the bishop? No, I'm going to play it out. And this video has gone for 45 minutes long, so I should probably wrap it up. So I'll just play quickly. This king and pawn endgame is losing, and he wins it like so. And I resign here. And that's that. And this is the very stereotypical Austin versus Nathan game where the opening's pretty equal-ish, and then maybe you could use the word outplaying. Maybe you could use the word like, Austin did some dumb stuff. I don't know, but I get a better position in the middle game, and then I get low on time. Austin outplays me in the end game, and I lose. That's like the very typical, very, very stereotypical. This is my 4th time ever playing him. I gotta make my memorable 4 games against book against Austin or something like that. If we play enough games, maybe. Anyways, I'm gonna turn on game review, and thank you guys for watching. And I'm gonna play round 3 in like 30 minutes.